pointing down on Omaha and Utah beaches. The guns could hurl a 95-pound shell nearly 12 miles, thus posing a mortal threat not only to the shores but also to nearly 7,000 Allied ships at sea. Of the 330 enemy artillery positions, the Army ranked the guns of Point du Hoc as the most lethal. The Germans had strong reasons to be confident in the impregnability of the point by both land and sea. It formed part of Hitler's Atlantic Wall, a 2,400-mile fortification of bunkers bristling with heavy guns and surrounded by landmines and water obstacles. The point itself was protected by anti-aircraft guns and machine gun nests, and honeycombed with underground concrete shelters that were connected to the gun emplacements by a sophisticated maze of trenches. Many considered the Rangers' task a suicide mission. "It can't be done," claimed one intelligence officer. 3 old women with brooms could keep the Rangers from climbing that cliff. The Rangers proved him wrong. Lomell dodged the bullets and German grenades, scaled the cliffs of Point du Hoc, and almost single-handedly dismantled the guns that looked down on Omaha and Utah beaches. Had his mission failed, it's possible that Germany's guns could have wreaked a lethal amount of havoc on the invading Allied forces. By knocking them out, Lomell allowed the invasion fleet to land on shore and unload men and equipment more safely and more quickly, thus guaranteeing the success of Operation Overlord. If you want to pick out an individual other than General Eisenhower, more than any other individual that made D-Day a success, it would be First Sergeant Len Lomell, claimed Stephen Ambrose. D-Day turned out to be the decisive Western battle of World War II. But it was more than just a single clash that the Allies won that day. On D-Day, Ambrose wrote, "The soldiers of democracy showed that they could outfight and outthink the soldiers of totalitarianism." While most of the stories about Lomell begin and end on D-Day, his heroism did not stop there. For Lomell and the handful of survivors of Dog Company, D-Day actually lasted for 2.5 days. Rather than breathing a sigh of relief after knocking out the guns, the Rangers were trapped as Army Command redirected reinforcements to help the First Army, which was still bogged down on Omaha Beach. Although greatly outnumbered and short on everything from food and water to ammunition, they fought off repeated German counterattacks and survived, but at great cost. Once rescued, medics sent Lomell back to England to treat a bullet wound in his side. It had turned black from gangrene. The Army offered him an easy job, which would have allowed him to recuperate and then sit out the rest of the war, but Lomell insisted on returning to combat. He checked himself out of the hospital, hitchhiked to England's east coast, and talked his way onto a transport back to France and Dog Company. Over the next 6 months, Lomell slogged through mud, rain, snow, and fog, fighting in every major battle as American troops advanced through France toward Berlin. Along the way, he was promoted to second lieutenant. While D-Day was his most important mission, Lomell would soon face an even more dangerous one. June 6th, he reflected on many occasions, was not my longest day. That came 6 months later, when he led D Company to capture the steep and slippery Hill 400, a heavily fortified German installation that towered 400 feet over Bergstein, Germany, in the Hürtgen Forest. American generals were determined to seize the area to secure their advance toward the Rhine as part of their relentless drive toward Berlin. From this strategic outpost, Germans launched deadly accurate artillery attacks throughout the Ruhr Valley. 1,000 men had already tried and failed to capture the installation. On December 7th, 130 Rangers from Dog and Fox companies ran 100 yards through heavy machine gun fire and captured the hill within 24 hours. Only a small handful of men survived the assault. Despite being severely wounded with a deep gash in his upper thigh and shrapnel embedded in his hand, and outnumbered 10-1, Lomell and his men managed to defend the hill against 5 German counteroffensives. Lomell had been the heart of Dog Company since its inception, but after the Hill 400 attack, he needed to return to the States for surgery at Valley Forge Army Hospital outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It would take